the death of Zan, the Warden of England, Theo has taken over and was only supposed to be stepping in his place for a short time, but that is not how it worked out. The council was in need of a leader, and once Theo got the power and Zan's ring, he would not let it go. He became a very power-hungry man, similar to Zan, but he still had a heart. After Zan's death, Theo and Julian got married and were very happy. Theo raised Luke, Julian's son, on his own, and he loved them very much, and they seemed like the perfect little family. But about 5 years into their marriage, things began to change. Theo saw the devastation of people without children, and violence grew significantly more than it was already. Theo was still a good man and was ready to help solve everyone's problem. He was ready to give the world children, but Luke was only 5. He still had about 10 years until they could start running the test to see if he was sterile or not. And the weight was starting to get to him, and he became very anxious. 5 years later, Luke was 10, and he and his mother were very close. But Julian and Theo's relationship was deteriorating. Theo was still very much in love with Julian, but the man Julian fell in love with was no longer there. The man she was with now was very cruel, harsh, and was becoming violent. People who would come and question him on how he was handling the situation of the sterileness would suddenly disappear. And Julian was no fool. She knew Theo was responsible. She had tried many times to get Theo to take off Zan's ring, but ever since he put it on, he has refused to take it off. She thought maybe, just maybe, if she convinced him to, that the old Theo would come back, but he would never agree. 4 years later, Luke was 14. Ever since he was born, he felt the pressure of the world on his shoulders. He felt like everything was left up to him, like he was the savior of the world, and that scared him very much. He just wanted to play, have a good time, go out, and be normal. But it wasn't allowed, because they couldn't risk him getting hurt. They made him work out regularly so he could stay fit, and they made him eat healthy so he would be strong. Luke hated it, and he despised the fact that he was ever born. On Luke's 15th birthday, he was to immediately go to the labs and get tested to see if he was sterile or not. But on the morning of his birthday, he woke up at 4 a.m. and took one of Theo's cars. He went to drive around. He wanted to look at the devastation of the city. He wanted to see how people were living, how this was affecting everyone. He just wanted to know what all the fuss was about. When he returned home about 3 in the afternoon, Theo was very angry. He yelled at Luke and told him he was a selfish and ungrateful boy who did not deserve to be the chosen one. Theo noticed how upset Luke was and told him that he was sorry, but Julian heard the whole thing and was not happy. They argued for hours, discussing what was best for Luke. Julian was the only one that Theo would listen to nowadays. She agreed to still let him take the test, but she said that afterwards Theo has to let him live a normal life, that he couldn't keep him from enjoying it, and Theo agreed. When the test results came back, the results said that Luke was not sterile. The news excited Theo. It excited him very much. He ran and told Julian the good news, but she had some bad. She told him she did not love him anymore because of the way he had changed since they first met. She told him that there was little difference between Zan and him now, and that she wanted to leave him. Theo was hurt and determined that Julian would not leave him. He told her that if she left, Luke would have to stay, knowing she would never leave her son. So Julian agreed and started thinking of a plan. 3 years later, things were starting to go back to normal. There had been about 2,000 babies born in England. They were called alphas. And Julian could see that Theo started to let his guard down, and that Luke's job was done. So one night, while Theo was sleeping, she got up and grabbed the bags she had packed for months now. She woke Luke, and they got into one of their cars and drove. Drove for days it seemed like. They drove until they were at a cottage, alone, isolated, and happy. They both loved it so. They were all the family they needed, and they lived there happy and were never heard from again.